Welcome everyone to this week's Advisor Team Weekly webinar. As you know, this webinar takes place every Thursday at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, we wanted to go over finding trade accounts that your business actually needs. One of the more common questions we get in the advisor line is, how do I find the trade accounts that my business needs? Last week, we talked about how business credit is changing and how important it is, especially nowadays, to start building the business credit. And sometimes that's an afterthought. The immediate need is, I need financing and I need it quick. But sometimes if we get to that point and the business credit isn't established, it's too late to reap the benefits from having the business credit established. So what we like to teach our customers is that it is equally as important to start building your business credit so that foundation is there when it is time to apply. That way you can get the benefits of having your business credit there. Last week we talked about that we're seeing an increase in declines based on business credit, or we're seeing on decline statements, business credit is one of the factors. Another thing is we are seeing the business credit reporting agencies develop and grow and make more and more connections with lenders. And as they do this, it means that the business credit becomes more and more of a part of the underwriting process. So as we see these shifts that we've anticipated, but as we see them, we definitely want to let our business owners know and help them build the business credit correctly. There's an art to it. And we'll go into that in more detail, but we use our Business Finance Suite, the online program, to really guide you through this. This is your online tool, and then the advisor team is your team. They wear that finance hat, and they will guide you through this. So let's do a general review before we get too far. Let's make sure we're recording. We are. Okay. Hopefully it didn't make you all dizzy there. So here we are. This is the Business Finance Suite. And what you're looking at is, this is the dashboard. This is your home page. You can expand steps that you've completed or minimize them. You can pull each of your business credit bureau reports. Now, keep in mind, there's not a tri-merge account like there is on the personal credit side. We talked about that. To date, you still need to pull them independently, okay? And this is your dashboard. So in step one, and you can see on this right-hand side, this is an overview of all of the steps, so you can go back and forward as you wish to any page that you've already completed. So step one, what we're doing here is lending compliance. In step one, we're building, and I can't express this enough, how important it is, we're building that sure foundation. All too often, when somebody goes to apply for credit, they get requests for tax returns, for the articles of incorporation, or a business license. And typically a bank does not tell you why. It's simply because that foundation is not in place. They couldn't verify what they needed to, therefore they had to ask for more documentation. We want to prevent that. When I was a lender, that's one of the main reasons I declined. Could not verify the business. And we've talked about, thinking as a lender, and one of the number one hurdles they're trying to overcome is this application real or is it fraudulent? So we are doing that in step one. Step two, we're looking at the finance blueprint. Hey, here are the factors that make the business fundable now, and here's what we can do to qualify now, and here's what we can do to qualify for more down the road. Step three, we're establishing those business credit reports, or making sure they're established correctly. If you don't have trade accounts reporting, you won't be able to find your Experian or Equifax reports. Those will only show once trade accounts are reporting. That means you actually have to use business credit to get there. DMB, they operate differently than the other two. You do need to set up a free DUNS number, and I do recommend purchasing the monitoring with them at some point so that you can look over that business credit report, make sure everything's reporting correctly. Why did I just go through these steps? Because they are before step four for a reason. They're going to prevent a lot of the typical pitfalls that a business owner runs into, sometimes we see a client rush through as though getting through these steps is a race, and they don't really complete these steps. And though we completely understand, that you want to get through it quickly, it's important to realize that these are in order for a reason. So let's dive in. Step number 4. So we're talking about today, we let it sit too long. So we're talking about today about, finding the trade accounts that your business really needs. And we have mentioned that building business credit is a lot like building personal credit. And some of us may not remember how difficult that was, but we all started out with $400 credit cards, or a little loan here or a little loan there, and then we built from there. And so there were several factors that went into that building process: time, type of credit, uh, so many variables that lenders were looking at. And as our credit developed, as time passed, as we used more and more financing, the options that we had grew. So it's the same with business credit, except for we can make that cycle shorter, which is really nice if you think about it. So we're in step number 4, and we have tutorials here. You can click on this link and you'll hear my lovely voice walking you through the steps page by page. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about today is trade accounts and vendor accounts versus, your credit cards, your loans and lines. What's the difference? Well, as of right now, most business loans, lines, credit cards don't report to your business credit reports. What's reporting is these trade accounts or vendor accounts. That is not to say that lenders for the business lines, loans, and credit cards aren't checking your business credit. They are. They don't have to disclose that. There's different policies there, but they are, just know this, they are pulling your business credit so that there's no confusion there. And so, but the interesting thing is yes, they're checking it, but they don't typically report back. Seems like a catch-22, right? So they want to see you have credit there, but yet they're not reporting back. Now, some business credit cards are reporting on maybe Equifax or Business Experian. Those two, every once in a while, we'll see some credit cards reporting, maybe even a line with a bank that's more advanced than another. But it's rare to see that type of credit reporting. It's typically these trade account vendor accounts. So these lenders are all checking it. They're not reporting back to build it. So we are forced to build business credit through the trade accounts and vendor accounts. And what are these accounts? These are typically store accounts. For instance, you go to Best Buy and they have in-store credit, and you can get it through the personal side, which is typically what they market, or you can get a business account, and they don't widely market that they have these. So we know that they have a business credit account at Best Buy. And not only do they have one, but they actually report regularly. We also know how many trade accounts they want reporting in order to approve you for this account, and what the best way is to apply. A couple weeks ago, I talked with a customer who went into Best Buy. They knew they had a business account, but they tried to apply on their own. So they went into the store associates didn't know anything about this business account. They called in. Long story short, the customer was passed around from department to department, and they were, in the end, nothing really happened with his application. So we called, frustrated, what's going on? Best Buy reports. And so we had to back up a little bit, and I'll show you here coming up where we list out, hey, Best Buy does have an account, but this is how you apply so that doesn't happen, so you don't get passed around. So first thing we need to understand is the difference between trade account, vendor accounts versus the lines, loans, and credit cards, and why we use trade account and vendor accounts. That's because the other accounts typically don't report. Okay, so we've got to build with what will actually build your report. Okay, so not all trade account vendor accounts report. You may have a business account with some vendor or trade account, but just because you have it doesn't mean it actually reports. And it is very common for these vendors or trade account vendors to only report if something is late. So keep that in mind. Sometimes a client will come into the program with the assumption that, hey, I have these credit accounts. I've been in business for 20, 30 years. Why don't I have any business credit? And there's a period of frustration there because, it seems logical that it would report, and we're used to that. In the personal credit side, uh, they're mandated by law to report. Business credit, it's the Wild West. They are not mandated to report. It's up to them. And so we have to keep that in mind. Just because you have a business account, a credit account, doesn't mean it actually reports. So now we understand that. The last couple things we want to talk about is selecting and applying for trade accounts. I briefly went over this when I talked about Best Buy. So we know not all of them report. And then we also know that they all have different underwriting standards. For instance, Staples, it's one of the beginning accounts in step 4, but they like to see a Paydex score before they'll approve. So that's, of course, one of the more useful accounts, but we have to keep in mind there has to be something on the business credit report in order to get approved with them. So it's important to understand that each business credit account is going to have a different underwriting standard, and we want to be cautious that we select them in the correct order. Okay, now do these vendors publish their underwriting standards? Let's step back and think about that. If you're a lender, would you publish what you are looking at in your requirements so that people can maybe doctor their application or prepare themselves to apply? The answer will be no. You wouldn't do that. They don't publish this information. We find out through putting large volumes through. We also have our way of pushing forward and talking with the head underwriters and so on to get those answers. So we do the homework for you, so you don't have to, and that information is on the website. And of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and submit those. We'll review them at the end. It's a great way for us to do a review and learn as a team. Okay, so we select and apply for the trade accounts in the right order, in the right way. And once again, here at the bottom, it talks about why it's important to build business credit. All too often, as a lender, I would see a customer come in, they're an older business, they didn't have any business credit established. I give them an approval, but if they would have had business credit established, I could have given them a little more. I could have given them a better rate. I could have given them a better term. And that business owner will go through the life of their business without understanding that and without knowing that things could be better. The other thing a lot of business owners don't think of is, hey, I could use these trade accounts to free up cash flow. If I spend the time, the 6 months, to build my business credit correctly, I could really get some sturdy trade accounts or accounts with my supplier to free up cash flow. If I don't have to pay for these goods for 90 days, it makes it that much easier for me to operate my business. Or, for instance, if I have really well established credit and I'm talking to my supplier, I can get the account, but I can get the goods at a lower cost because of my established credit. They can see my history. There's so many benefits to having that business credit there, and we're seeing more and more the advantages to building business credit because it's developing and growing. Just as we talked about in that webinar, this is something that lenders are integrating more and more into their underwriting process. Okay, so can you get financing? This is a good question, and let's clear this up. Can you get financing under the business credit only? It depends how we define the word financing. So you can get trade accounts, vendor accounts under the business credit only. You can get business credit cards, Visa, MasterCards, that can be used anywhere or most places that take Visa, MasterCard. You can get those under the business credit only. Can you go get a line, loan, equipment financing under the business credit only? Typically not. Those lenders will either want a personal guarantee or they at least want to pull your personal credit to verify you as an individual and look for any recent major negatives like bankruptcy and so on. Keep that in mind. It isn't That is the market. That's a snapshot at the market. It wouldn't be our program that's limiting you there. That really is a standard underwriting practice. Now, I believe personally, as business credit develops into more and more of a standard, where the reporting has, for instance, with D&B, we all know they're very sales oriented, and they do things that can sometimes cross gray areas. And so I think as it's reformed, as it's cleaned up, that lenders will rely on it more and more to make that underwriting process. As it gets cleaned up, then I think we'll see more financing based under the business credit only. But as of now, there's credit cards you can get based on the business credit only, and trade accounts, vendor accounts. Other than that, most lenders are still checking your business credit. It's a supplement to the personal credit, but they're typically going to still pull the personal credit. And it's important to understand that. For instance, on business revenue financing, they look at the personal credit, but their score requirements quite low. 520s are not uncommon there. They're simply looking to verify you as an individual. Okay, we went into more detail into that than I thought we would, but let's keep going here. So we're going to go to the next page. Now here's where we entered the lists. Okay, so turn on your thinking caps, and here we go. Let's dive in. Now, we talked about the importance of picking these trade accounts at the correct time, and this is our goal in step 4. Our goal is to get 5 payment experiences reporting on your business credit reports. There's 3 business credit agencies. We want a total of 5 payment experiences between all 3. That means if somebody reports to all 3 credit bureaus, that counts as 3 against the total of 5 that you need. So what I'm saying there is you don't need 5 separate accounts. You simply need 3, or sorry, scratch it, as if I couldn't make it more confusing there. You don't need 5 different accounts. You need 5 different payment experiences. So if you get trade accounts that report to all 3, you probably only need 2 or 3 to get to that total of 5. Okay, so we're going to first review this list, and then we're going to select those accounts that we're interested in by marking the box. And then we're going to apply for these vendor trade accounts. The way you get the information to apply is you have to finish up step 4 to get that information. Then we wait for the approval. We follow up with the creditor as needed. You talk with the advisor team. They'll guide you through that. Then it's important to make your purchase and payment. Now, keep in mind, it's the payment that's reported. It isn't just the trade account. So you have to make a purchase and payment in order for that trade account to get reported. I'm going to stress that one more time. It's the payment on your purchase that's reported. It's not the account. Personal credit's different. Your account gets reported no matter what. Business credit, it isn't reported unless you make a payment. And then from there, we want to monitor the business credit reports and watch as those trade accounts report. It typically takes 30 to 60 days. It can take up to 90. Now, keep in mind, this is another important detail. This is why we go through step 1. If you don't set up these accounts using the correct business name and address, it's very possible these accounts won't report, or a full new file will be created and you'll have multiple profiles in your business credit reporting, especially with Experian and Equifax. So when you set these up, it needs to be with the business name and address that you're using on all of your records. Okay, so we go through these lists and we get a general description of the service that they provide, who they report to, and what it takes to get approved. Okay. For instance, Creditera, this company provides personal credit reports and also Experian business credit reports. The nice thing is when you set up the monitoring with them, they report to D&B. How fantastic is that? What does it take to get approved? This one is really easy. All you do is click on the link and buy the monitoring. Love that account. It's a great starter account. And some customers may say, hey, where is my $10,000 Home Depot card? Well, remember, this is like building your personal credit. We're paying our dues. And we've got to do it in this first round. Thankfully, unlike personal credit, we can get through this building process a lot faster. It's not years. It's just going to take a couple rounds of applying, which is going to take about 6 months on average. Okay, so, and it's important, let me back up a little. It's important to know what you have reporting on your personal or on your business credit report before you start this process. If you've already got some trade accounts reporting, let's say you have 4 payment experiences between all 3 credit bureaus, then you really only need 1 more payment experience. You could make that purchase with Creditera and you're on your way. So keep that in mind. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. That's why it's important that you read this getting approved section so that you can choose the trade accounts that are applicable to you. That's also why we don't tell you exactly what trade accounts to apply with. Because if we did that, then we're not catering it to your situation. Because think about the variables. You may have a couple of trade accounts reporting on Experian, but you need more on D&B, so you need to select those with D&B. The other factor is every business is different. There's thousands of different kinds of businesses, so you need to be able to choose those resources that are going to be best for you. We've got the standard, reliable, Gemplers, Uline, A Printer for You. These type of companies typically want you to prepay for their services one time, and then they'll issue you a credit account. Yeah, it's not easy. We've got to put forth a little effort to get these credit accounts established. And think about it as just like you did on the personal credit side. We just have to step back a little bit and go through this process. But before you know it, they report, and it becomes a lot easier. So those are the starter accounts. Those are the easiest accounts to get. Just like Creditera, you simply purchase the monitoring and it reports. As you go through the next pages, some of these could qualify as starter accounts, but they have a little bit harder of an underwriting process. For instance, Radio Shack. If we read this getting approved section, they want you to be in business for at least 2 years, and they will pull a business credit report to see how you've handled bills in the past. That means they want to see something on there. And if there isn't much data, then they're going to ask for bank and trade references. So, and a DUNS number is required. So you want to remember that these are variables that Radio Shack is looking for. And we line this out on all of these trade accounts. So you can read through and make those decisions that are best for you. Amazon wants you in business for at least 3 years, and so on. So you'll go through these lists and decide what is best for you. The advisor team can consult you through this. You are not alone. If you are feeling overwhelmed, I always tell a customer, don't ever get to that place. Call the advisor team. We answer the phone immediately. Very few customers ever have to leave a voicemail, and when they do, they get a call right back within our business hours. I'm proud to say that. Our customer service is excellent. So when you're going through this, if you feel frustrated or confused, you call the advisor team and they'll guide you through it. There's a lot of information here, but we would do you a disservice by not giving it to you. So there we go. We keep going through. We've got these separated by type of accounts. So we go here and we've got Staples, FedEx. Now you'll see there are some accounts that don't report. Why are they there? Right? Because what if that account's helpful to your business? It may not report, but what if having it helps your business? So we still put it on there. The other nice thing is D&B will allow you to add payment references. So some of these accounts will qualify as a payment reference. You simply set up the monitoring, the credit builder monitoring. That's the more expensive monitoring with D&B, and the link is in step 3 and on our website. And then you add these manual references where they contact these lenders, and we'll add them onto your D&B report. So that's why they're on there. Let's keep going through these lists, and I'll show you where we can start to apply. So we're marking those boxes on the accounts we're interested in, reading the getting approved. It's going to take a little time to go through all these and come up with that perfect recipe of accounts you're interested in. Just because you mark the box, it doesn't mean the application's submitted. Okay, you're not committed to it. You're simply saying, I want instructions and more detail on that account. So when you get to the end of the step right here, it gives you a good overview of all those accounts you selected and what it takes to apply. For instance, on when you're going through step 4, you're not getting all this getting approved detail, nor do you get the phone number, the fax, the payment terms, and things like that. So it's giving you a little more detail so you can apply. One of the more common mistakes a customer will make is try to apply for the account before they get to the last page of step 4, but it can be confusing because you don't have this information on how to apply. So make sure you get here to the last pages, and then you can review what it takes to get approved and start working through the applications. The advisor team is here to help. If you're filling out an application and there's something confusing, we can walk you through that. If you want us to walk you through all the applications, we can do that. That's what we're here for, and we really take our cue from you. All of our customers are different and in different stages, and some work late at night, and so they simply feel more comfortable just working through this on their own. Others would like to talk with us and have us walk them through it. And so keep that in mind. We're taking our cue from you. We try and leave as many voicemails and emails as we can so that you know we're here to help. And if you can express to us the best way that we can help you, then we will certainly jump to that opportunity and do everything we can. Okay, so you're applying for these. Once you do that, you're going to monitor and wait for the approvals, and then you'll make your purchase and payment, because remember, without that payment, that account does not report. And once that account reports, which takes 30 to 60 days, then we can move on to step number 5. You'll see the system, and mine will be different, but the system will not let you through to step 5 until you have at least 5 payment experiences reporting. Why is this? Well, we would hate to see our customer go to step 5, start applying and get declines because they didn't have enough credit established and maybe miss the warnings that we put in the system. Because once you apply with account, you typically can't reapply for 3 to 6 months. So we want to put that barrier in. It also gives us an opportunity to talk with our customer, to review what they did in step 4, clear up any questions, help you look at the business credit reports, and make sure you're truly ready for that step 5. Now, as I mentioned, it is easier to build business credit than it is to build the personal. It takes less time. The cycles are a little shorter. So as these report, the credit's looking good, you're about 2 months into this building process, then you can already move to step 5, and these accounts become more and more helpful and useful and desirable. Of course, so you'll see that Staples is listed again. This is a different Staples product. Some of these vendors, they have multiple products, they have multiple tiers, and you can build into the account that's most helpful to you. So you'll go through these lists again. It's the same process as you completed in step number 4, and you'll select those that are the best fit for you. And keep in mind, there's always those tutorial videos at the top. Your advisor team is here to help, and we'll get you through this and make it as easy as possible. Now, on the very last page of step 5, this is where we have those business credit cards that will approve without a personal guarantee. Now, some customers will come to me and say, Megan, it's just a Home Depot card. And remember, we talked about there's tiers, right? So Home Depot does offer a Visa MasterCard that is a credit card that can be approved without a personal guarantee. Same thing with these other cards here. So as you're going through it, keep that in mind, that when you get to this very last page of step 5, these accounts, you have to have at least 10 trade accounts reporting and at least a 10,000 high limit trade account reporting. And it outlines that in the getting approved section. So you'll want to make sure you have that number of trade accounts reporting before you apply for this last page in step number 5. Okay, so that is a good review of step number 5 and step number 4. When you get to the last page of step 5, of course, you get that detail to sign up for these accounts. Now let's see if there are any questions and we can go through those. I expected a lot, so here we go. If a client already has biz trade accounts using their personal guarantee, but some are using, let's see, but some are the same as those we have for business credit, do they need to reapply without the personal guarantee? Or can they have the account for the business both with and without the personal guarantee? Okay, good question. So, for instance, a customer comes to us and they applied for a Staples card and they provided a personal guarantee to get that because they didn't really have enough business credit to get it without the personal guarantee at that point. That account still reports, it shows under the business, and it created an inquiry on their personal credit at that time. Do we need to close it? Absolutely not. The inquiry is already done, the account was approved, it should already be reporting. So if it's not, then we need to make sure it's set up under the correct business name and address, make sure we're making purchases and payments and allowing enough time for it to report. But I still see no reason once it is established to close it up. Now that said, think about it. If they would have built their business credit before they applied for that account, they could have qualified without a personal guarantee. Those inquiries are gold. Remember, you can get declined based on inquiries alone. So anytime we can get credit without looking at the personal, that's preferable. The other stipulation there is, keep in mind, that means you are personally liable for the credit. So you want to make sure you're paying on time, because if that business account goes south, you are still personally liable. You could close it down and open it up the other way, but that's up to you. Typically, we recommend you just keep it open. Okay. If the existing business credit trade accounts don't report, is it worthwhile to get them set up as a reference with DNB, or is that individualized? Do you need to have that conversation with the client and therefore can't make a generalized uh, answer? So if you're using a trade account, a business trade account, and it doesn't report, it hasn't been reporting, it's not on the list as trade accounts that do, then yeah, we do recommend that you submit it as a reference to DNB. Now, keep in mind, there's requirements. So you'll probably want to consult with the advisor team to know what DNB's requirements are. If that vendor has made an agreement with DNB to not receive references, then they won't send it. If this vendor reports automatically, like Staples, Office Depot, they're already reporting, they can't be added as a reference. If it's a bank or a utility company or a company simply that's not going to answer the phone call or respond to the reference request, then it can't be added. So we want to keep that in mind. It's not a slam dunk when you have an account that's not reporting to add them as a reference. That doesn't mean it will for sure get added, but it's worth looking into. I highly recommend in those situations you consult with the advisor team so they can guide you through that, because once again, bank credit, those lines, loans, credit cards cannot be added as a reference. If it's a utility type of company, cell phone, cable, water, sewer, anything like that, even if it's for your business, that typically can't be added. And it needs to be a vendor that's actually going to answer the phone. And I would also suggest it's somebody that's going to give you a good reference. If you haven't paid on time, you wouldn't want to submit them. Why don't vendors want to report? And how much work is it for them? They have to. Great question. Why wouldn't they want to, right? Many of them only report if it's late. Some will have to pay to submit data, so maybe that's one barrier that they have. The other, to be approved to report, you go through a rigorous process to be approved. In the past, 10, 15 years ago, business credit wasn't as much of an underwriting standard as it is now. So it's something that a lot of vendors are growing into. So taking the time to get approved through DNB or Experian or Equifax, they need to jump through those hoops, which can take a lot of time. I've seen it take 6 months to a year to get set up. So there are a couple barriers that they have to go through. But I'm seeing more and more trade accounts and vendor accounts, credit accounts getting set up to report because it's in their best interest to report that information, especially since they are now using it more and more as an underwriting process. So here's another question. So if I set up let's see, so if I set up my accounts and use them to build BizCredit and then stop using my accounts, does that mean that nothing will show up on the reports? And what's the impact? Great question. So let's see, we'll answer the first one, which is I make a purchase payment with Staples and then I do nothing for the next 6 months. Is that account going to disappear since it's really the payment that's reporting? So the answer to that is it's okay. That trade account reports and it shows on there. It shows that it reported on the date that you made that payment. So if I look at it 6 months later, it'll look like an older trade account. That account will drop off after a year typically. So you'll want to keep that in mind as you're building your business credit. This is going to be a constant process that you're going through, and business credit scores are more black and white. So the age of the accounts does not factor into the score as much as it does on the personal credit side. It's more about the number. So as of right now, if you did a Staples purchase 4 months ago and that's when it reported and you didn't do anything since then, it's okay. We're not going to say you have to go back and apply or make another purchase payment. You should be fine. That said, just remember that is a factor that lenders are going to look at, and I anticipate over time that will become something that's more and more important to the lenders. But as of right now, it's fine if that's seasoned for some time. It will eventually fall off, so maybe you want to make a purchase payment every year and keep that fresh. Great question. And so to answer that last part, how does it impact my scores? To more clearly answer that, it won't really have an impact. For instance, DMB score is black and white. If you pay on time, you have an 80. If you pay late, it's below. Okay. Let's see. If you have a credit card with a personal guarantee from your bank, can you reapply for the same account without a personal guarantee? Fantastic question. So yes and no. It depends on who the bank is and what the card is. So most banks do not offer a business credit card that can be approved without a personal guarantee. Okay, so that answers part of your question there. You can't have that personal guarantee removed, or you couldn't close it and then reapply without the personal guarantee. It's typically the vendors who offer the business credit card without a personal guarantee. There's just a select group that does. And I often get the question, aren't there more accounts? Where's the rest of them? These are truly the accounts that we list on our site. Those are really what we have to choose from in the market. So I would not recommend closing your business credit card with your bank and looking to apply without a personal guarantee. Most banks won't do that. I would say all, but I can't say that. But pretty much none of them do that. So they won't approve without a personal guarantee. Great question. I came into the webinar late. Is it being recorded? Absolutely. And it'll be posted on our YouTube channel. We had issues with converting the audio on the last two, so those will both be showing up with this one here in the next couple days. Let's see. I think he just added to the end of his other question. Any other questions? Just hurry and submit those. You can also call the advisor team anytime, and they will go through this information too. You can ask any questions you have. You can also listen to the videos that I have on each step that go into detail. And we're always here to help. We understand that, as I went through this webinar, you'll probably pick up 10% of it, but the more you dive in, the more you'll retain. So I want to express that to you. If it's still a little unclear or foggy, call the advisor team right now. Ask them those questions. Let's get clarity now so you can digest more and remember more of it. And then keep keep coming back. Keep coming back to the website, listen to those tutorials, and the more you do that, the more this will cement. Keep in mind, you are not just in this program to get financing. You're here to build your business credit. You're here to build a strong business asset where if you sell this business, you can show them, hey, I have established business credit. I have done my homework. I've prepared. As you go to apply for financing, you've got that established credit. And it's really going to help you in the long run. You're not just here to get financing, you're also here to build business credit, and you're here to learn. These are things that every business owner should know and understand. It takes a little time, but we're taking out that learning curve. I'm telling you, exactly how this works, and we are here to go over it as many times as you need. So I want you all to understand that we're part of your team. We wear that finance hat. We're cutting out the confusion, but that doesn't mean it's not going to take a little time to learn. So if you feel a little bit overwhelmed, a little confused on a certain item, let's get some clarity on that. Keep coming back to the website, keep calling the advisor team on these principles, because we just went over a lot of information. Okay? Well, I appreciate each of you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure spending my afternoon with you, and it's always a pleasure talking with you through the advisor line and making those outbound calls. Just, it's great to have such wonderful business owners to work with and help through this process. So again, I'm going to stress, call the advisor team. We're always here to help. Our phone number is 800-497-0499. You can also send us an email, advisor@businessfinancesuite.com. And join us again next week at 4:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. We'll dive into another fun topic. You can review each of these recorded webinars on our YouTube channel, The Business Finance Suite. Everybody have a wonderful day, and make sure you join us again next week.